right, so Adam called me up at the beginning of last week and said, hey, I'd like you to conduct a panel here. And there's just a couple asks. One is we want rock stars coming on stage, people that are in the zone right now doing really well that you guys, they're all household names that you guys want to see up here. Number two, you want something a little more colorful, maybe something you're not going to read in the Leaders magazine. So we're going to make this a little on the PG-13 side, if you guys are okay with that. You guys okay with that? Maybe R-rated. Okay. So let me introduce the panelists today. Please welcome to the stage Justin Scrow, Amy Leaf, Fareed Mohsini, and Nelson Figueroa. You guys ready? You guys look good? You guys look good? You guys look good? All right. All right. Woo. All right. All right. These guys are in the zone. So we're going to start off here with Miss Amy Leaf. You ready, Amy? So your boy Rich was just promoted. I don't know how many days ago is that now.
I think a lot happened from the last week. But
yeah. His life is definitely going in the right direction, to say the least. But interesting story for you. So you and Rich were basically gypsies. Okay. So before you ever became an owner, you had moved to 5 different cities before you even moved to open up. On the 6th time you moved, you opened up an office. Mm-hmm. So I'm just curious, how did you explain things to your family, and how did you keep your focus during that time?
Yes, it's a good question. So I moved 5 times, and I was on 7 different campaigns before I got promoted. And so my family just thought I was getting a new job, so I think they thought I was really good at what I was doing, and so I kept getting all these job offers, so that was cool. But I think the most important thing is your family, in my opinion, they want you to be very happy, and they want you to be taken care of. And so I was always happy, and I learned to not talk about what I was frustrated with to them. And the other thing is I made sure that I was paying my bills. So if your parents, they want you to be happy, they just don't want to pay your bills. Which is very true. But what that did is my bills, I had to pay my rent and my insurance and my car payments and eventually student loans and then other things you just don't even realize you have to pay for. And so it helped me earn opportunities simply by producing in the field. So I think the focus was not being homeless. And eventually when I got to New Jersey, we were in Boston, and Boston was the 3rd city that I lived in the year of 2011, and then at the end of the year we moved to New Jersey. And no offense to anybody that's from Jersey, but what else am I going to do in Jersey other than get promoted and move out of New Jersey? So that was my intention. We sat down and we had a long conversation at the bar that we lived on top of, and said, "This is it, Rich. You got to sit down, buckle down, get committed, because I just have to get promoted now." And we moved to New Jersey, and we got recruiting going, and I think it was 3 to 4 months after we started recruiting, then I was promoted to assistant management. So
Great answer. Thank you. All right, so Justin, you're my next contestant here. So some people on retail might experience FOMO. Yeah, a little FOMO, a little fear of missing out. So some people think that maybe they're missing out because they're working on weekends, and my friends have traditional Monday through Friday 9-to-5 jobs. Okay. What thoughts or messages do you have for our assistant managers and owners?
Well, first off, go Birds. Sorry, Rich. Anyway, no, I think for me, success is a choice, and it's a choice that we got to make daily. And I've been told from my father early on that life is kind of pay to play. And what I mean by pay to play is that we got to make a choice daily, or my mentality is I got to make a choice daily of how I want to live my life later on in life. So my advice would be is that you got to make that decision. You got to choose. Do you want to pay now and play later, or do you want to play now and pay later? And what that looks like is I have friends that are early 30s, late 20s, mid 20s that they still party, they still go to the club, they still live that crazy life, and they love their weekend. And there's times that I feel like I miss out, but I know that what's going to happen long term is, they're going to look in the mirror at 50, 60, 70, God forbid 80, and they may not have retirement. They may not have the choice if they want to work, and it may be a mandatory thing, right? They have to work. And I never want to be personally in that position to where I have to work later in life. So, I choose to work 7 days a week right now. I choose to maybe miss some stuff with Dylan, my little girl you just saw on stage right now, but when she can't remember it, because I promise myself, I promise my wife, and I look my little girl in the face every day, and I promise her that I will never miss a dance recital. I'll never miss a soccer game. I will never miss the things that matter when she's a teenager and she needs me. So in the way that I remember that for myself every day is I say a little quote to myself, or a little saying, is that success is not owned, it's leased, and the payments are due daily.
Great. Very good. Very good. All right, so Fareed, you're from a country called Azerbaijan. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you did.
Okay,
That's good.
So ex-Soviet country, so at the age of 10, you moved to Dubai. At the age of 23, you moved to America. I'm just curious your perspective on business, your perspective on success being, from another land.
Yeah, being an immigrant is, first of all, it's awesome. I get to have a cool accent. You guys don't have, so. Here's what I think about it. Just coming from a place where you don't really have anything, opportunity is not freely granted, and to coming to a place where it's everywhere. To some degree, that kind of a background almost made me emotionless to, the win or the loss of the day-to-day. So even the terms, when I started the business, the terms like negged out never made sense to me because I was like, what do you mean? Just do your job. You're supposed to have feelings when you come to this stuff, right? It doesn't matter whether you feel good or you don't. So to some degree, that was the immigrant in me, I think, where I didn't rely on the emotions when I was going through this business. So that's really the main thing that I would say being an immigrant really taught me when it comes to this.
Okay, thank you. All right. All right. All right, we're 3 for 3 with applause so far, Nelson, so you and I got to connect here.
Good luck.
So I was calling, you and I had some funny conversations because I kept bugging you over this last week on, hey, Nelson, tell me more. So this was interesting, and I don't think many people know this. So there's your little baby on the screen, little Ava. She's almost a year old. And you were telling me when you first found out, when Sarah first told you that she was pregnant, you freaked out. You were a little terrified, to say the least. Now, that means this was only a couple years ago that you introduced a family into this world. Now, your production has gone up 4 times since this terrifying moment, okay? So I'm just curious what happened in your psyche, what happened in your brain that you want to share with the rest of the crowd here.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, she assured me that it could take up to a year or 2. Sometimes people struggle, and it happened a lot faster than I thought. And my initial feeling was pretty similar, like how I feel now, like don't screw this up. And when I found out that I was having a kid, and there's that was that feeling. And then we had a gender reveal party, I remember, and we had some friends from Atlanta, and we did this little cut the cake thing, and you find out if it's a boy or a girl. In my mind, I'm like, I just want to throw a ball with a dude, and that just seems like a lot easier. And I think that there's this picture, and she's gonna hold it against me when she grows up. There's this picture of me like with the cake, like I was like looking at it, and then I'm just like this, like, and I had actually I don't think I grew up going to church, but I don't think I'd ever been so religious in my life and asked promises and thoughts and forgiveness and things like that. So just a lot of reflecting. But anyway, so I think at that time it was I wasn't where I really wanted to be as far as in my professional life. I think that for me coming into this business, one of my number one as far as goals and priorities was to take care of my family. And at the time, that just meant, coming into this out of college, it just meant my mom and, as far as my brothers and things like that. And then obviously, you fast forward to this point to where, all right, you're married, you got a kid on the way, and, the whole time leading up to that, I always had these goals, like kind of where I wanted to be, like whether it was hit consultant, or I wanted this much money in the bank, or just professional goals, so that way I felt more comfortable, obviously taking this next step. And I wasn't anywhere near that, and it really freaked me out. And I didn't handle it too well in the beginning, and kind of acted out a little bit. But I think that on top of that too, my wife decided to go into real estate, and obviously this is a commission-based job, but like everyone needs internet. You can find someone on a daily basis. I was like, Sarah, how many people do you know that need houses right now? So I was worried, and obviously so it put a lot of pressure on me. Like I said, I didn't handle it very well in the very beginning. But I think that through time and just with talking to people that were closer to me and my coaches, it really gave me it put things in perspectives, and I just felt like a lot of support. And so I think that that's kind of what got me through that. And like you said, obviously since then. With the help of some of my guys, like, Justin, we've been able to obviously do some really good things. And I think it was just, getting focused and just knowing where I wanted to go and what I wanted to hit. And now there was no, all right, well, it was just I had to pick up the pace, so that pressure turned into be a good thing. So.
Mm-hmm. You imagine if you had twins, what would have happened? You'd be a senior national by now.
I'll work on that.
You'll work on that. Okay. Okay. All right. PG-13. All right, here we go. So there we go. We got some applause. So Amy, back to you. So after the Gypsy Chronicles, okay, so after you traveled like a vagabond all around the country, you shut your office down, okay? And then you reopened, you went on a retrain, you reopened up, and in your first year opened up again, you banked $100,000, and you opened an outside deal. Kind of makes us all maybe want to go on a retrain. So tell us about this retrain. Tell us about the magic of this retrain.
Well, there's no magic, but it's crazy. I was thinking about this last night after we were kind of talking and everything, and to go on a retrain, I think, has such a negative attitude or connotation or image or something about it. But I was thinking last night that I'm only X amount of years into my career, and there are people that are 30 and 40 years into their career that aren't where I want to be. So God forbid I take a step backwards to get a lot farther earlier in my career. Now, when I was on a retrain, so I went back to New Jersey, which was probably the most humbling part of that, for a year. And I sat and I watched Rich every day, and I got so irritated because there was absolutely nothing that he was doing differently. And so I just thought to myself, there has to be some sort of resource or information or other coaching out there that I can get to figure out what I can do better. And so I was fortunate enough, I had Rebby, she was up in New York City, so I went to her office a few times and talked with her, and she talked through a lot with me. And then Melissa White was just like a half hour away, so I ended up going to her office every other week just to watch her in action. And I would do things like watch her have a leaders meeting and tell her leaders, hey, if you don't step it up, we're going to let you go. And then she would jump into game. And so I watched her do leaders meeting. I'm like, oh, that's how you bottom line somebody in front of everybody. And then you jump into game so you don't look like a complete jerk. And you're cool with them all again. So I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about my voice, and I learned a lot about how to carry myself. And I also sat down and really thought about what I wanted, and I realized that what I want doesn't require millions of dollars a year. And at that point, what I wanted only required about $83,000 a year as a break-even point. And so I just felt very, very confident and comfortable about being able to run an office consistently, confidently, and just make $80,000, which is a lot more than the average American anyways, but it's not very much in our business. So I had a lot of confidence, but I think the biggest thing I learned was just about myself and what I want, and that I think maybe the first time I got promoted, I was kind of running an offshoot of Rich's office, and when I got re-promoted and opened my office again, I just decided it was going to be my way. So that's what I got.
Right. Great. Great. And so Justin, I appreciate you giving me permission on stage to talk about this next question. So let's go back in time. It's 4 years ago. You're getting ready to go to Las Vegas for your bachelor party.
Yep.
And you're taking your dad with you to Las Vegas on your bachelor parties. I mean, you must really love your dad.
Yeah, we were super tight, and we were best friends. So I wanted them there.
Okay. Anybody else go with their dad to their bachelor party? Okay. One. Okay. Adam. Okay.
Oh, see,
So here's where this gets a little tricky. So you're at the airport. Your dad goes to the bathroom. You're texting your dad, "Hey, Dad, we got to get going." He's not responding. You walk to the bathroom. There's a police officer standing in front of the bathroom, and you knew at that moment what had happened. And what had happened is your father had a heart attack and passed away in the bathroom. You had just moved to Philly. You just opened up 2 outside deals. You're running an office in Philly with 6 reps. To say you weren't motivated, somewhat of an understatement, because your dad was your big why. Like your dad was the person you really worked hard to. You wanted to take care of your dad. And so you were in a mental funk. I mean, how did you turn things around?
Yeah, well, it started out lighthearted, and you brought the heat. So, I try and make a joke because it's still kind of tough to talk about, but I can tell you this, Jamie, it was not easy. I had a ton of support from Nelson and Adam, and they're just always being there. I mean, you get a ton of calls with Gary and Vera, and it was just tough. I mean, I think everyone needs to understand of how close me and my dad really were. Saying he was my best friend is kind of an understatement. He was the guy that I just constantly wanted to make proud, whether that was playing hockey in college, playing professional, getting into sales. Like, I talked to him 3-4 times a day, every day. So it was tough. Like, I was genuinely lost without him. And I remember I was living in Manayunk at the time, and I still had his cell phone number saved in my car, and I meant to call my mom, and I hit his number, and it went to his voicemail, and I heard his voice, and I just asked myself, and this all happens in a split second. I go, why the hell am I doing this? I genuinely didn't know anymore, and in the same second, I asked myself, would he be proud of me? And I broke down because for the first time, it was a no, and I had to reevaluate really what my why was, and it wasn't to retire him; it was to become the man that he was, and always take care of my family. The way that he always took care of us. And I had to define what my family was, and what I realized is that my family wasn't just my wife. It wasn't our fiance at the time. It wasn't about the kids that we were going to have. Obviously they are my family, but it was now taking care of my mom, taking care of my 3 younger siblings, trying to make sure that they didn't have any lifestyle changes. And then it was my guys. They trust me with, honestly, their lives and their future, and I just want to come through for my family as much as humanly possible. And I think that moment, I'll be honest with you, if I didn't call him that day, I really don't think I'd be here. So I was just having support and, really finding out what my why was, and, obviously trying to make him proud every day. So
That's awesome.
Thanks.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Cool. Okay, Fareed, we're going to lighten the mood a little bit here.
Sorry, bud.
So you were a married man before you joined the company. You were married for 2 years before you joined. And then you joined in Sebastian's office, who's got a pretty high standard, right? Like, you're expected to work hard. High expectations coming out of that office. So I'm just really curious, what challenges did you have as a married man going through the field, and what challenges are you presented today?
Yeah. Starting this business is way simpler going through it as a bachelor. But starting as a married dude, I started in Sebastian's office, and Sandra, who's a recruiter, called me, and she's like, hey, we have an amazing opportunity. Just come on in. Company name is Phoenix, F-E-N-I-X. And I researched Phoenix, the city. And sorry, I'm still choking. Phoenix, the city, and I was like, this company looks legit, looks really professional. I want to work here. So I researched the wrong company. I came in and found out, okay, it's a different company, but still looked good. Looked around. I saw Sebastian from the front of the room. I was like, that guy looks sharp. Oh, let's work for him. Let's see what happens. Next day, I find myself in Walmart selling DirecTV. So it was a little odd. And then once I understood, okay, in my first month, I saw promotion, and I was baffled. I'm like, what is this promotion to ownership? This doesn't make sense. And then once I really understood the end game here, I came home and I just sat with my wife and I said, hey, I got to do this. And I really started thinking about it as an investment in loss. I set some clear expectations, and it was tough. It was tough. I missed all the birthdays, all the, the weddings, all the events, all the family events. And, didn't see my own family back home in Dubai for a while, and now I'm expected to come to the weddings and bring the most expensive gift. But it's, it was tough. But I think just setting some clear expectations right up front, and thinking of it as, hey, I'm going to invest in loss in the short term so I can have a long-term gain was really the perspective that I had going into this.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, so Mr. Nelson. Okay, so we're going to paint a little picture. So you're an owner on Quill many moons ago in Pittsburgh. You're an owner for about a year and a half, just getting your rhythm, and you get a phone call from your friend and mine, Mr. Dorfman, saying, hey, listen, we got this little retail opportunity. You take the plunge, you move to Atlanta. Then you're in Atlanta for 5 years on DirecTV. You get another phone call from your friend and mine, Mr. Adam Dorfman, saying, hey, we got this Comcast thing going on. Except now you had a baby, so a little bit more decision making. So I hear you're a C type in the world of disc, and I have my own little creative adjectives I like to use for disc. And for C's, I sometimes call us complicated. We can be a little complicated. If anybody would like to know the rest, come see me later tonight, and I'll tell you what the rest stand for. So looking back, okay, these appear to be really good decisions that you made, and not easy decisions that you made. I'm just curious to hear your thought process on decision making.
Yeah, I think that at that time, it was actually before Ava was born. Back to my story that I was talking about the previous question, but I was just actually starting to get back rolling and picking up some steam on DirecTV. Like I said, I found out obviously Sarah was pregnant. She decided to get it, obviously to a new career, and then also, obviously Adam, threw up this pilot at me, and for a while I was really nervous. I didn't know if I wanted to do it or not because I was obviously afraid of like, all right, I got all this going on right now. I guess I'm a thinker. Apparently, I do think through things a lot, and sometimes I think a little bit too much to where I kind of get in my own head. And I was very hesitant about doing it because obviously it's the thought of like, well, what if I fail? Obviously I have my family to take care of, and also too, kind of when I put my name on something, I want to obviously do a good job. And I think for me, and just with any decision that I make, I mean, whether it was moving to Pittsburgh, I haven't moved out of Georgia since I was a little kid, to coming back to Atlanta to Comcast, those obviously decisions have gotten harder because there's a lot more on the line, there's a lot more responsibilities, and I think that for me, I've always been comfortable with asking. I feel like asking for help. I understand when there's things that. I like to get different perspectives, I'll put it that way. And so I go to, obviously, Adam, but I also go to people that I don't work with or see on a daily basis. The Brit over there is someone that I talk to a lot, and just he gives me advice and just feedback on, And so the way I look at things is it's kind of just like probably Moses, like, well, what's the best case? What's the worst case scenario? Worst case, all right, what if it doesn't work out? Well, I got that, but for me, again, with putting my name on something, it was like, all right, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go all out. And, I'd been an owner for a bit, and I know for some folks, going to the field kind of on a more consistent basis for some of us is not always the most exciting thing, but that was the commitment that I made to Adam. He's like, if you're going to do this, you got to be in it, you got to be doing it. So, I was in the field 3 to 4 days a week, every week, full days, not, take out an interview and peace out, but I was there 3 or 4 full days while continually running DirecTV. I think that for me, if it wasn't just talking things out and expressing, and talking through, like, this is what I'm scared of, this is what makes me nervous, and then obviously at the same time, well, look at all the exciting things that you can get from it. And then so for me, as far as where I was at in my life, I was like, I just got to go for it. I got to do it because this thing could be big, and I would kick myself later if I didn't do it. And just really step out of my comfort zone and do something that made me nervous, which is, I think that's kind of helped me along, and especially the past couple of years of helping me see a lot more as far as just progress and just, as far as a person and obviously as my org. So I think that's what really helped me.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, so Amy, so you're not married, you don't have children, okay? Welcome to ejamiematch.com
that's
here.
what
I'm
I
kind of
was hoping
throwing it
for.
out there to the universe, okay? But you plan on having both one day.
Yeah.
So I'm curious how you're preparing today for these big changes in your life.
Yeah, so I guess sometimes it's hard to prepare for things that you don't exactly know. Like, I would imagine it would be easy to go home and see a little baby and be motivated by that. But I heard on a conference call when I was a leader, and I don't know if this statistic is true or not, but that when a man and a woman get married, and if they get divorced, that the woman's standard of living goes down by 70%. And I don't know if that's true or not, but it was enough to make me on that conference call close my notebook and take a deep breath and just think, F that, I'm not going to be that statistic at all. And so my entire life since I've been out of my parents' house, which was when I was out of high school, I've fully financially supported myself. I've made my own decisions. I've paid my own bills. So I guess I just never thought that it would end. And I just would imagine, now clearly I would never nobody wants to get divorced ever, right? But just think of moving out of like a nice house and then having to move into some sort of little tiny shack because you were so dependent on another person. Just something that I wasn't easy with. And something that I thought was amazing was getting the opportunity to go to Melissa's office when I was back in New Jersey. And it was like she had this weird little rhythm. She would find out she's pregnant, and then 9 months later, she'd have a very active, qualified assistant manager that would run her office for 6 weeks. So they got the experience of running an office. Her business didn't miss a beat, and then she stayed home for a few weeks and came back and was just running a great business again. Like, it looks so perfect in my mind. So I'm really thankful that I got to see that. And so I guess that the way that I'm preparing for that right now is planning on continually promoting out 2 to 3 deals a year so that I'm always in a situation to be in full control of my life, whether that be with myself or with a sugar daddy, if you will. And it's just extra, you know what I mean? I can take care of me. So I'm just preparing for that, I guess. But the other part is making sure that when I do have kids in the future, that I'm setting a great example for them and I'm somebody that they can be proud of as a family person in my community and business, and set the right tone for other people. I think our society is changing a lot too, where that is required and is, for a lot of people, really expected for the female to step up in a relationship. So I guess that's kind of how I'm preparing to take care of myself, and then when I find the right person, it'll be the person, and then it's just sugar, whatever it is, you know?
Great. Great. There we go. Just a little bonus question on that. What are you looking for in a guy? Just a little bonus question.
We don't have enough time for that.
You don't have time for that? Okay. She's looking at the clock. She's off the hook. All right, so last question here, Justin. You're having a second baby in March. How are you prepping for babyhood number 2?
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I just think it's just putting my business in a position to where I can be out. I want to spend, a week or 2 with Kayla after the baby is born. And it's just having my business in a position to where I can be gone. And I just think that's living a tier 1 life, right? Making sure that I have over $25,000 wires, 30 guys in my office, recruiting, rocking, a couple qualified, ready to rock and roll assistant managers, and it looks like we're going to be able to do that. So that's how I'm preparing.
Great, great. Well, listen, you guys all did an awesome job. Please give it up for our panelists here this morning. Come on, guys.